Well, as people across the US brace for the impact of tariffs, as we've been discussing, food banks providing essential help to vulnerable families are also being squeezed by a recent cut in government funding. In late March, the Trump administration cut some $500 million from the US Department of Agriculture program that provides US states with funding to buy fresh, local food, which are then passed on to food banks. So those cuts mean that those frontline services are set to lose millions of pounds worth of food for those in need. And in the Midwestern state of Wisconsin, some 10% of people face food insecurity. More than 200,000 children there face hunger. That's according to the nonprofit group Feeding America. One of Wisconsin's biggest food banks, the Milwaukee Hunger Task Force, says that it's already seen the cancellation of $615,000 worth of fresh food deliveries. Well, earlier I spoke to Milwaukee Hunger Task Force CEO Matt King. Matt, very good to have you with us here on BBC News. So government funding to help food banks distribute healthy food, local food has been cancelled. What impact are you seeing?
Yeah, thanks, Helena, for having me. Food banks like Hunger Task Force around the country recently learned that the U.S. Department of Agriculture has halted millions of dollars worth of deliveries to food banks nationwide. These are food deliveries that were supposed to be received from June through September. In Wisconsin specifically, where we serve over $2 million worth of healthy foods for the entire state, items like meat, milk, cheese, and eggs. So for us, it specifically means about 13 semi-truckloads of food valued at over $600,000. With these cancellations, it leaves us really little time to make up for these shortfalls on such short notice, and especially at a time of really increased need.
So you just mentioned their efforts to try and make up for those shortfalls from the people that you work with. I just wonder if you've heard any plans specifically from the Trump administration as to how they plan to help fill that gap, perhaps, whilst also making the cuts that they say that they need to.
We have not. In response to the loss of these truckloads, we're taking a measured approach. We're purchasing some truckloads to help fill the gap in the short term while we monitor any further changes to these food programs. During the first Trump administration, when tariffs increased, the federal government purchased food from U.S. farmers to stabilize food markets, and that resulted in Hunger Task Force receiving additional foods for distribution. And so that could potentially happen again this time around.
And so generally, I think I heard you say that demand appears to be going up in Wisconsin for people needing assistance. Just paint us a picture of what people there need.
Yeah, over the past year, we've experienced a 35% increase in community need and visits to emergency food pantries. Collectively, our network of partners is serving more than 50,000 people a month across all of our programs. And we've heard that same story from our colleagues around the nation who are serving other communities around the country. People are having a hard time keeping up with the high cost of living, not just groceries, but in particular, the sustained increase in housing costs that we've seen over the past 5 years. So many young families with children, seniors on fixed incomes are having to make these really difficult and frankly awful decisions, to skip food so that they can keep a roof over their head. And so in those times, they look to local food pantries for help. And these programs from the USDA have always been a critical piece of that safety net.
And you mentioned tariffs the first time around under the first Trump administration. I just wonder if you think now, with them due to come into effect, higher prices as well, that you do expect to see that need increasing.
We do, and part of the concern here is not just for the food banks, but also for the farmers and the producers who, rely upon these programs as well. These programs have been around for decades and really been viewed in a bipartisan fashion as a win-win, because people in crisis have access to healthy foods, but also American farmers and the economy are stimulated by these programs. And so it's not just a setback for food banks, but also the American producers who are supplying the food.